On this interview, I talked to Kevin Young, brought to you by Four Farmers. And Kevin is a very sort of private person in a way, an intense thinker, but a very helpful person, particularly for agriculture in Esperance. He's lived his whole career there pretty much, and he's going to tell you his story. He was into barley breeding for the first 25 years, apart from a little stint with no tillage, the first 2 years, or direct drilling. We'll talk about that. And then we talk about his wheat journey and vernalisation, and he goes into a fair bit of detail. I didn't understand all of it, but I got a pretty good gist of what he was saying, and I think you will too. Pretty technical, but for those of you that are into breeding, I think you'll really appreciate Kevin's big picture story. He's got a variety of wheat that could be a game changer called Mohawk, and he bred that. That's got some really significance for early sowing. It's a winter wheat, and he'll explain what that is. Yeah, sit back and enjoy Kevin Young. Kevin's very methodical, so you'll pick that up in this interview, and I'm sure you'll get a lot out of it, particularly if you love breeding. So enjoy Kevin Young from Esperance. He's just a fantastically deep thinker. Oh dear, this is going to be fun. All right, well, good afternoon, Kevin. Thanks for joining us. Kevin Young, now a breeder in Esperance, sort of retiring now, and I worked with you back in Esperance in the late 80s and early 90s, and really appreciated the work that you've done, Kevin, throughout your life. So it's a thrill to have you on here, and you've got a lot to unpack. But let's start relaxed with your story. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Yarra Valley in Victoria, on a small cherry orchard. Had a wonderful childhood, were the best of both worlds, where I lived in amongst orchards, dairy farms, cattle properties, and then I could jump on my bike, and a few miles away I could jump on a train and be in Melbourne, off to the MCG or wherever. So I had the best of what the city had to offer back when it was cheap, and the MCG was the people's ground and not just the ground for the rich.
Yeah.
And grew up in a rural setting with lots of
smells,
available.
Lots of noise, lots of work. Family? Yeah. You part of a big family or a small family?
Eighth. Yeah, I was the eighth.
Eighth child of 8?
There was another, but anyway.
Oh, like me, the second last. I'm 9 of 10.
Yeah, good Catholic family.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Good. And so you went from there you came to WA. When did that happen, or did you do a degree before you came to WA?
One of my mates worked out that we both were keen on agriculture, but we never in the world, ever have enough money to be farmers. So he worked out we should go to university and do agricultural science. And he was a few years older than me. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got to university, he switched to pharmacy. And there's no money in agricultural science, but I really wanted to do agricultural science, so I kept going. I did a bit of work for ICI.
So whereabouts was that? Was that Melbourne?
Yeah, that was at Merrendale Research Station, just in my uni holidays.
Yeah.
And then I graduated with no honours, scraped through, because all I wanted to do was just get my ticket, get the hell out of there and go and find a rural community. So the opportunity came up to work for ICI in Esperance in Western Australia.
Oh, that would have been a bit of a surprise. Big jump.
Yeah. Having probably never been out of Victoria before.
Yeah.
It was back in the days when you didn't travel much. I looked it up in my World Book Encyclopedia, and it looked pretty good. The beaches looked nice. And
best beaches in Australia.
And there was all this stuff about famous American people investing and
opening up the land.
And being a keen fisherman, the water looked pretty good. So
yeah.
I was off.
Yeah. So, you would have been 22, a recent graduate.
1978. So that was 1978. I was 23.
Yep. And you flew to Perth or drive across the Nullarbor?
No, I got on my first plane flight. Yeah. It was
exciting.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Terrifying. I went from a 1961 Ford Falcon.
I had one of them.
That I sold for $120 to a brand new 1978 Falcon. And
ICI paid for.
Yeah. Travel allowance and
good. Yeah. Did you travel over the state or just around Esperance?
I travelled around the state initially while I was being trained.
Yeah.
And then for 6 weeks, and then I was based in Esperance.
Right. And, ICI sold, spray seed, paraquat, diquat. Wouldn't mind talking to you if you know anything about that paraquat issue, but it looks like it might be real from the bit that I'm picking up. But do you know anything about...
I don't do news these days.
No, that's okay. That's all right. I'm trying to read the scientific papers. I've got Cameron Beck working with at the moment. He's got a PhD, and they think there's a relationship between Parkinson's degree and Parkinson's disease and paraquat. And I'm not wanting to criticise that idea until I've read the papers, and if it's true, then obviously we have to be very respectful of that, but there could be a link. So
I know there's a very close link between paraquat and death if you drink it.
Yeah, 3 mils.
Don't drink it.
Yeah, and as we know in agriculture, we deal with some tricky stuff, and we just got to treat it respectfully. And if we do that, usually it's all good. In fact, from a paraquat point of view, even if there is a link, when I was farming up at Morrowa for 13 years, I hardly ever smelt paraquat because we had a sealed, 110 litre thing, and you put the thing on top and it's got suction on it, and you push it down. You don't even smell it. It just goes straight into the system, and then you rinse the pipe into a water, and
Yep.
So anyway,
Something like that when I was share farming in 1980.
Yeah, well, I know techniques of looking after yourself.
Parkinson's.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, you know how it works. There's a normal distribution curve. Some people are susceptible and some aren't, and there's a bit in the middle.
I was listening to the Country Hour once, and they were talking about the supposed link between glyphosate and cancer.
Yeah, well, I've looked at that one, and I don't agree with that one.
The best comment I heard was one from the wheat belt texted in and said if there was a close correlation or close link between glyphosate and cancer, there'd be nobody left alive in the wheat belt.
Especially us in Western Australia, because we've adopted no-till very enthusiastically, and it's been an important part of that. All right, so going back to your journey now. So you worked with ICI based in Esperance, and you went all the Great Southerns. You go up to Geraldton as well?
No, I just worked the Esperance area.
Yeah. And when you said work the Esperance area, does that mean you drop into farmers and talk to them and say, have you ever thought of trying no tillage?
Yeah, I was a bit shy. So I didn't.
What do you mean you wasted your time?
I didn't like selling stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But I had partly sales rep and partly on the direct drilling project team. Yeah. And that was really good fun. And that got me involved with farmers like John LeBert.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's sadly not with us anymore.
Yeah.
But John, he taught me about farming.
Yeah. Good guy. I worked with John a fair bit.
Talked me into going sharecropping and buying a 24-row combine and Howard Beach.
When I was last there and he was alive about 6 years ago, I dropped in on him and he showed me his Bettinson drill that was still there.
The old Bettinson. Yep.
Which is just a double disc drill without press wheels, wasn't it?
Triple disc,
yeah, without press wheels.
Yeah.
So is that what mostly you were using when you were trying the direct drilling?
No.
What were you thinking could work back then?
Well, it was a full cut with a combine.
Yeah.
So standard combine was 24-row.
Yep.
And
very bad breakout
points on it because you basically needed a full cut because it was spray and it was finished off by the cultivation.
Yeah, because the doses we were using were quite low because they're very expensive, and so to finish off the roots, for those that don't know anything about this, is the tillage finishes off the roots. So the two together is what you were working with.
Yeah. And there was generally this huge resistance that unless you tilled the soil, you couldn't.
It doesn't blow, it doesn't grow.
Yeah, unless you tilled the soil, you couldn't grow a crop. So the foot in the door, and a lot of the paddocks were really rough. So when you did tried to seed with the combine, you'd miss bits. You'd go in too deep in other bits. And so I think you're involved in this thing. The way to get the foot in the door is spray cultivate seed. So you hit it with a scarifier. Don't let it plough anywhere near it. But hit it with a scarifier and then seed. Yeah. And they felt a lot better about that because they were, they were tilling the soil a bit.
Yeah.
But then as the paddocks evened out, they worked out that scarifying was just costing them money.
Yeah.
But diesel was really cheap then, so they didn't think of that too much, but it was costing them time.
Well, Jeff Fosbury, we just had a 30-year crop updates get-together with 900 people in Optus Stadium, and Jeff was the one on the panel right at the beginning about the big changes in agriculture. He said, without doubt, no tillage or direct drilling / no tillage was the biggest. And he mentioned that the farmers, his brother-in-law would stick a scarifier in front of his seeder so that he could do it all in one run.
Yeah.
So, but obviously it's come a long way since then. And I was lucky to stand on your shoulders because you went before me. I came in 84, 85 doing my research on no tillage. But tell us a little bit more about that. A lot of the countryside was blowing away, wasn't it? And that's what...
It was diabolical. It was normal to have dust storms. Every year you'd have dust storms because the standard system was plough it, work it back, seed it. Often on the sand plain, you were big cape wheat and you were transplanting them. And then the soil was worked so fine that, of course, the big winds hit from the northwest and dried the soil surface out, and it just took off. And you look in the ceilings, in the roofs of houses built prior to, say, the 1980s, and you'll see in town, a fine layer of sand sitting on top of the gyprock in the ceilings. Wow. That it could be a couple of millimetres thick. That's just blown in there from the annual sandstorms.
Right. So you did. What was the? Yeah, it didn't really take off because we were struggling with the cost of herbicides. Back then, 1% of farmers. Esperance had to do it a bit more, and they did use those triple disc drills a bit because Nan and Pop Kettle brought in, I think, 17. Kevin Bly told me of the machines. Yeah,
they did use them a bit. There were probably only 4 or 5 in the area.
Yeah.
There were a couple. I think Pell House had one at Kojonup and
Narrogin, another guy. Yeah. Kevin Bly told me about them. Okay, so they didn't really take off because you didn't get good weed control with them.
No, you had to have the system for them was the double knot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to spray twice.
Yeah.
And the recommendation was 3 litres.
Yeah.
2 hits of 1.5 litres.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Back then. And put a bit of dicamba, as Ted Rowley would say, to get the clover.
Yeah. Yes.
The Rowley brew. Remember that one?
I try not to think about Ted Rowley.
He was a colourful character. He went on the radio once and he said, the farmers have got to get their ploughs and just throw them into the ocean, turn them into anchors. Which is, the essence of that wasn't all bad, but yeah. Okay, so you work with Rick Madden then too, because I've interviewed Rick on this podcast about the second or third podcast I did.
Yeah, so I went on for a year.
Yeah.
1980, I moved to Katanning. And moved on to the direct drilling project, and I replaced Bruce Boddington. There. And so I was part of the full-on part of the team, and that's when I actually had to start working for a living instead of just swanning around pretending to sell stuff to farmers.
So what was that then? Trial data, trial work?
No, we were running field days. We were called out quite a lot.
Yeah.
People, doing direct drilling for the first time and just wanting to get it right. We check out their combines were getting the full cut, or just check the paddock that they weren't seeding into a potential disaster area that was full of grass and had that sort of thing. Just making sure they got all the basics right, and they got the timing right for the herbicide. And
the rotation back then was a few pastures and then at wheat, pretty much?
Oh, well, in the Esperance area, the classic was 25% of the farmer's crop. So you went 3 years pasture, 1 year crop. As you went further north, it tightened up because there was obviously less stock and more crop.
Okay, so Esperance wasn't that profitable back then, certainly is now. And you've followed the whole journey because you've stayed in Esperance pretty much.
Yep.
And so you got out of ICI and then you joined the department?
I went to the department. I went back to Esperance in 81. Yeah, I started as an advisor, crop and pasture advisor. My mentor was an absolute legend called John Richardson.
JR.
Yeah. And
he's still kicking too, I hear.
He's
good on him. Greetings, John.
JR and I pretty much looked after, I think it was about 700 farmers. So we were the two agronomists.
Yeah.
My phone would start ringing at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'd take it off the hook at 7 o'clock at night at home, and then they would know that I was going to put it back on the hook at 7 o'clock in the morning because it would start ringing as soon as I bring it back. And,
People don't know what you're talking about when you say you put your phone back on the hook.
a phone, turn it off. Oh God, the world will end. That was it was great times, and it was great to be in an area where things were developing, because I found that I had uni mates who worked in other ag department offices in some of the old traditional areas like Katanning and Kojonup, and they said it was, by comparison to they reckon my job was really exciting because it was all new, and
everyone was learning.
Office.
Yeah, everyone was learning.
Whereas where they were, they didn't want to know about the ag department.
Yeah,
lost interest in them years ago. Which was a bit sad, but then made me appreciate how lucky I was to be there at that time.
Yeah, big changes. So when was the next big change? You worked with a couple of other really good ag department staff that mentored you?
I got a taste for research. I initially started off on a pasture research project. My mentor was another legend, Alan Robson, who at the time was head of the Soils Nutrition Department at UWA, and then he went on to be Dean of Agriculture and then the Vice-Chancellor. Absolutely an amazing teacher and
clever man.
Oh yeah, amazing teacher and great scientist, and that laid the foundation that set the standard for me for the level of research that I would operate. And again, really lucky to have a great mentor.
Yep.
And so then I saw an opportunity, because no one really done much in the way of research with barley and barley agronomy. Barley is a bit of a forgotten crop, a bit of a sidekick at wheat. And so...
Although I grew up a gardener, barley was important for us then.
Yeah, but a big crop was 500,000 tonne.
Yeah.
You know, at Esperance, the south coast was a third of the state's crop.
Yeah.
I put up a project to GRDC in 1984, and that was the first barley agronomy research project. And I put up and I took that on, ran it statewide, basically did that till the end of the century. So I was in barley research for about 16 years, I suppose, 17 years. And then...
so you interact with Peter Portman a bit then as well?
I had a lot to do with Peter Portman. Yeah, I thought if you're going to be involved, and this to me, a lot of things that just seemed like the normal thing to do were quite unique. Like I thought, I'm the only barley man, he's the only barley breeder, we better get together. And we got on really well. And as the barley system evolved, so I was starting off with barley crops where a good crop was 2.5 tonne per hectare.
I remember that. I was with you, sort of.
And the ag department, the barley crop would go yellow.
Yep. Barley yellows, David Rees would call it.
No, that wasn't a barley yellows. This was powdery mildew.
Oh, okay.
But, the powdery mildew would come in, and the ag department line then was, but it'll green up. It's just a passing thing. So basically...
Ignore it.
Yeah, it'll go away. And it did. After it took out half the tillers and half the yield. And then barley was sown June, sometimes July. Yeah. And there was really exciting priority. So the first thing I did was get involved in fungicide work, because there were 2 trials and that were done in collaboration between someone in ICI and someone in the ag department, and they were nameless. They did 2 trials with what was then a fungicide seed dressing for barley. And they got a 25% yield increase in one trial and a 12% yield increase in the other trial, and came to the conclusion that it wasn't economic. So I thought, there might be another way of looking at that. And come out with Baytan. Well, it started off as Eric's. And in conjunction with the Bayer scientist at the time, Mark Sumner, there's Calyx. I started doing fungicide work, and then got involved with Tanvir Khan, who was the barley pathologist, and I great mates, and we really enjoyed working together. And I was looking at things like the effect of nitrogen on the level of powdery mildew in barley and the role of potassium in suppressing it. And Tanvir came up with the idea that this fertiliser-treated fungicide that they were using in Victoria for the control of takel and rhizoctonia, he said, I think we should try this.
Flutriafol? Impact?
Yep. Yeah, we started with in-furrow fungicide work to basically for the control of barley foliar diseases, not takel and rhizoctonia, and it worked a treat.
Yeah. Well, I remember, just cut in on you there, because I came to Esperance in 88, and I remember looking at your trials and thinking, my goodness, Kevin's growing some crops that are much, much better than any farmer grows. You know, you're growing 4 or 5 tonne, and most farmers are growing 1 and 2, 2.5.
Yeah, I think we cracked 5 tonne in 1986 or 7.
Yeah, so it was quite...
We went over to, then we got 6, and by the 90s...
It was radical. A bit like Smithy, you know.
Well, we shifted the sowing date to May.
Yeah.
And Peter Portman was producing semi-dwarf, longer growing season semi-dwarfs, the first of which was Onslow, and then later on Bodan. Well, that was Ross Gilmore later on.
Yep.
But, so the whole thing changed, and then Mike Grimm got involved, and Mike worked out, there's the entomologist, and Mike worked out that once he got to yields of over 3.5 tonne,
aphids,
then aphids could impact in a big way.
1.5 tonne yield, some of your data.
Yes. The one thing that Alan Robson told me when I got the job as the barley agronomist, and I remember on one of his visits, we went and had a counter at the Gibson Cirque, and I said, how do you think I should approach this project? And he said, well, the classic agricultural scientist model where you publish papers, you work on a specific area and publish papers, that goes out the window. He said, you're putting together a production package, so you're going to have to pull in experts from all different areas and integrate. You've got to be the integrator. And while I was looked on all that because I wasn't churning out scientific papers.
Hi, this is Bill Crabtree from Four Farmers. Glad you're listening. Hope you're enjoying it. Four Farmers is a family-owned business based here in Western Australia. These podcasts are about interviewing people that have good knowledge, experience, influence, and innovative ideas into agriculture, particularly based for Western Australia, but there are some global topics as well. Four Farmers is more than just a podcast. We sell a range of agricultural products, particularly pesticides, but some trace elements as well, and aquifer. All right, so let's now jump into the podcast and learn more about agriculture.
I was making a lot of mileage by working with experts and then integrating their research into the package.
And you certainly were. I was witness to that. While Anderson was doing a similar thing with wheat, and Peter King came over too and shared some of the French Schultz stuff. I don't know if you might have heard about it before then.
Yeah.
You know, water use efficiency and why are our yields so low, and rotations, get lupins in there and take all out of it. Not that barley's affected as much, but it still is affected by take all, as you've already said. So that whole package, it was quite a surge of activity with you sharp focusing on barley. Yeah.
No, Wal was, I had some tremendous mentors because I was in Mike Perry's group.
Yes.
You look at the ag department then, and they were a research powerhouse, not just Australia-wide, internationally.
Well, some of those people were the sharpest kids at university across the whole of, even medicine. Some of them were in there for passion for agriculture.
We had all these internationals as well.
Yeah.
And Mike Perry's group, when I was part of it, and Mike was a fantastic boss, and he was, he wasn't a renowned scientist in his own. He had the ability to pull together big names and they get them working together. And he was always on my case about, you really need to be doing a bit of work with Bill Poden or Wal Anderson, get involved with Wal Anderson and the Flowering Windows project. Yeah. And he did a good job.
He was a quiet achiever.
Yeah, brilliant.
He didn't sing his own song, he didn't, stick his chest out. He got alongside people. I think.
By far the best and most effective boss I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
But he, in that group, you've got the likes of, and I'm not going to name them in order of importance, but Wal Anderson, internationally renowned.
Yep.
John Hamlin.
Yep.
Anne Hamlin.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Belford, all internationally renowned. Sadiq, now the Dean of.
Yep.
Then there was, I don't know, the Young Turks at the time were me, Charlie Thorne, and Rob Delane. And we used to have some pretty good discussions.
Yep.
Especially over a beer on a field trip. But we were the Young Turks, and we were learning off all these legends.
I rocked up at the golf course the other day and with my son to play golf. And Rob Delane was there. So I had a whole round of golf with Rob, so it was great. Yeah, so, all right. So now that was your barley story. You want to tidy up any loose ends on the barley story?
I moved, the barley story changed tack after the late 80s into the 90s. The package was pretty much done.
Yep.
The yields were going up, had gone 2, 3, 4. The best parts of paddocks were going 6 and 7 tonne.
Yep.
And
coupled with your direct drill, no tool, past.
Coupled with everything.
Time of sowing. Nutrition.
That had very little to do with me.
Time of sowing.
That had very little to do with me. It was the whole gamut of things. It was the herbicides for knockdown as well as in-crop weed control. When I was with ICI, the whole chemical spectrum was 2,4-D and its
spray seed
and its brothers and sisters, trifluralin, and spray seed. And that was, when you're a chemical
Diuron.
When you're a chemical, you didn't really have a lot to sell.
No. So you did well to go on to the other stuff because you've made a great contribution.
Yeah, but so in the 90s, I got really interested in barley physiology, and that was the focus. So the next 10 years was all about barley physiology. And there was things, for starters, it was the control of flowering. The three mechanisms that control flowering: photoperiod, fertilisation, and the one that is really poorly understood or publicised, which is earliness per se, or basic vegetative period, which has a huge effect in barley. Not so much in wheat, but in barley. So I worked out what the best combinations were for barley to flower inside Wal Anderson's and my flowering windows from a whole range of sowing dates. That was the first one. Then I moved on to temperature tolerance and what effect temperature tolerance had on rates and durations of grain filling. So, some varieties would just collapse in terms of grain weight after a heat shock. And I found a relationship between that and the earliness per se. The European barleys that were coming in with this very long basic vegetative period also carried the unfortunate trait of having slow rates of grain fill and being susceptible to temperature shock.
Not good for our environment.
No, and Franklin was the typical of that.
Yeah.
And so Bodan, which is, if you're looking at earliness per se, Franklin is by far the longest. Bodan is by far the shortest. What Bodan has that holds it back is 2 photoperiod genes. And because you got that short basic vegetative period and 2 photoperiod genes, it is incredibly flexible. And my other one that I was promoting is called Skiff for its boron tolerance. It's the same, very short BVP, 2 photoperiod genes. And that is the model barley for your May all the way through to June sowings, that combination. Then the rates and durations of grain filling. And then finally, there was a big issue with kernel discoloration. And this is what got me to the US. And barley was being, for the first time, put over a Minolta, had a B value, which measures yellowness. It was too yellow, was downgraded. And it was the whole thing with grain colour in barley was guilt by association.
Really?
So barleys that have been out in the weather tended to turn yellow. Anything to do with barley being in the weather, the basic assumption was that there was lots of microflora growing on the grain that would spoil the brew. Mm-hmm. So, but as it turned out, it wasn't. That's why it's been scrapped. Took them a long time to figure that out. But I had a project to look for sources of resistance to kernel discoloration, and I found them. Some from Japan, some from Canada, and
Minnesota.
And one of the programs was in Minnesota. So I applied for a GRDC research fellowship and got it, and went to Minnesota for a year.
What year was that?
That was the year before you went. That was 95, 96.
Right.
So it was,
yep.
and that's
I remember you coming back and giving a talk.
Incredibly.
How quickly barley grows 1 week with that long day length.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
The day length. Yeah, my supervisor was a guy called Don Rasmussen, was an absolute legend of barley breeding. I didn't know that much about him before I went there. I was just lucky. I had 3 offers, one in Canada, one in England, and one in Minnesota. And I don't know why I took the Minnesotan one, but
you're glad you did.
Yeah. For so many reasons. And but Don was he's a really feisty, terrifying character. What I tend to do when I come across people like that is I wait for the right opportunity and I take the piss out of them. And I do it quite often. And students and colleagues couldn't believe what was going on. And so,
you're an Aussie as well.
So because of that, Don, so I can't walk all over the top of this guy. And
so he respected you a bit more, did he?
We ended up really good mates.
Yeah.
And so the reason why it was a turning point for me was because Don, a relatively small breeding program, university-based breeding program, 75% of the malting barley in North America, US and Canada, 75% were his varieties from this tiny program. Mm-hmm. And he ran a course for postgrads that was basically designed to turn out commercial plant breeders. And I would, being a visiting scientist, I was allowed to go and sit in on Don's lectures. And after the lecture, Don and I would go up for morning coffee, and all the students would go back to their caves underground, getting away from, they're all living in the basement.
While you have a drink of water, I had a good time in Minnesota myself. I actually rolled my car over there, came in on a cold winter's day, and I had no studs on my tyre, and we hit black ice. And I said to my wife, these guys don't know how to drive. I'm a rally driver from Western Australia. So I corrected it nicely, and I was managing it really well. But then I ran out of distance, so then I had to let it go. Because I was going to hit the car in front in a minivan, basically, and my legs would have been crushed. So I let it go, and it skidded across the road into snow that was about this high, gently rolled onto its roof. And my little baby kid was 1.5, Samuel, I think, and James was about 4.5. As soon as we stopped, he said, "Daddy, can we do that again?" So that's my Minnesota story. So
did you?
No, I didn't do it again, no. It worked out really well for us, actually, because we were able to get insurance on the car and drive for another month before we left to come back. And we got full value for the car and full value for the diff that we had to change, the starter motor we had to change, and everything we had to fix. We got 75% insurance back on what we spent. So we actually worked out really well. So anyway, sorry to digress. So what was your story? You were there in summer, not winter.
I was there for a year.
Oh, yeah. So you saw the cold.
I had incidents, but they weren't as bad as yours. After Don would give his lecture to the students, we would then go up, have morning coffee, and discuss the lecture in relation to the West Australian barley breeding program. Yeah, we had some fantastic discussions. I learned so much from him. And
well, he would learn a lot from you too, just from the different environment. Really. No, yeah, I'm sure he would have. Anyway, keep going.
He learned how difficult Australians are.
But he respected you.
When I got back from Minnesota, just before I'd gone to Minnesota, I put out the barley book, which I'd half of it was my research that I wrote chapters, and half I brought in, the various experts. And so I've sort of felt that had tied up the loose ends in that part of my life. When I got back, there was a big shift to privatising plant breeding that was occurring. And in 2000, at the International Barley Genetics Symposium in Adelaide, a bloke by the name of Steve Jeffries came to me and he said, look, and here's an old mate of mine from my barley research days, because he was a barley breeder and barley agronomist.
And a weed breeder too.
Steve came to me and said, GRDC are encouraging people to put up proposals for private breeding companies. I want to have a go. Would you run the West Australian operation for me if I did? Are you interested? He didn't offer. Are you interested in running that? And I said, definitely. Eventually, out of that evolved AGT with me as the Western Australian node manager and commencing a breeding program from Western Australia from scratch. And my mentor was Gil Hollenby, probably the most successful wheat breeder in South Australia's history. And he was a mentor to Robin Wilson, who was going great guns in Western. I left the ag department, set up Steve didn't have enough money initially. He didn't have enough money to
buy everything you needed
and fund a project. And so I said, well, I'll start up my own business. You'll be my main client, and then I'll do breeding trials for, and it turned out my mate Andy Barr, barley breeding program,
South Australia,
barley breeding, and then Wallace Cowling's canola and GBA's wheat, and I had all these clients, and then my breeding project for AGT. I started to hit my straps in that, and I had 2 varieties ready to go.
Barley?
No wheat. So I'd established a wheat breeding program.
So you stopped working on barley?
Barley was out the window.
Yep.
AGT was all wheat.
Yep.
And at that stage it was all wheat. And anyway, we had nodes in, well, to me in Esperance. Russell Eastwood was in Horsham, Machin in Narrabri, and then there was the Roseworthy team back then. And then, so, what Western Australian program was being dominated by Roseworthy material up against mine, and I had 2 lines ready to go, ready for release, an AH on this wild catch'em replacement, and an APW on a Westonia replacement, and along came Mace and skittled me. And in 8 years from scratch.
For those that don't know, Mace kicked the yield up about 7% on wild catch'em. And usually if you get a 3%, you're pretty happy. And you probably had that 3%.
I had the 3%.
But it was 3%.
And I had not just AH, it was a magnificent AH.
Right.
It was miles better quality.
You still got it, have you?
No. Miles better quality than Mace, but
Mace had the yield.
But they were both AH.
Yeah.
This could have been prime hard. But no, there's no prime hard. So, but Mace had the yield, and Steve said, deliver them to the bin. You got a classification, you can deliver that 500 tonne as AH. Yeah, thanks very much.
That would have hurt. That would have hurt a bit.
Oh, yeah. Blew the wind out of my sails. I mean, for a new breeder to get 2 varieties in 8 years.
Yeah.
I thought I'd done all right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mace just took over. And
it got to 62% of West Australian wheat, I think.
More than that.
70%?
Yeah. It was, in Esperance, it was 90%.
Right, yeah, it would be because of your sprouting issues.
Ridiculously high. Yeah, I remember meeting Hayden Coogall there at the airport one day, and I shook his hands. I said, welcome to Macelands.
Not Graceland.
Anyway...
Mark Seymour could do a song out of that, you realise?
He probably could. So then, of course, money-wise, AGT went from rags to
riches.
other load.
Yeah.
And then within a couple of years, basically my level of usefulness to HET had run its course, and they had lots of money, and they set up the Northern node.
Right.
And so I accept an offer that was impossible not to refuse, and left. And thought, well,
Where did you go?
well, I didn't know where to go initially, and this was 2011. I just left, and I thought, oh, well, we'll see what happens. And then I wasn't gone long, and I had a knock on the door, and it was Longreach people, and they said, well, HET has kindly paid for your apprenticeship. How about you do some wheat breeding for us?
Mm.
And then I had a knock on the door from a good friend at the ag department who gave me part-time work with the wheat agronomy group for a couple of years while I got my business re-established again. One variety came out of my time at HET, that was Bremer, that never really made much of an impact because, it was a rust-resistant mace, but people don't value rust resistance. So.
Fungicides are cheap.
And then pretty much Scepter came out, and it was another
quantum leap.
A few more percent high yielding than
Probably 4.
Bremer.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Bremer had a bit on mace.
Right.
And then Scepter had more. Out towards the end, I was spending a lot of time in that breeding for sprouting tolerance. And
There is a gene. There is a CRISPR gene I've read in a scientific paper. Have you read? You like to read papers, don't you? Scientific
I love
papers.
reading papers.
Out of the US, I thought there was a.
Oh, there's lots of them. When I spoke to the experts in Queensland, they said their estimate was there's probably around 11 QTLs identified for prior sprouting tolerance, and there's interactions between all of them. So
Complicated.
yeah, those little minor background genes.
And then it affects the dough quality, someone told me it can do.
Well, if it sprouts, it affects it.
Yeah, but if it
Presence
doesn't.
of the genes don't know.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so anyway, I had all that experience in breeding for disease resistance and sprouting tolerance, and I had a chance to utilise it because I knew the steps that were involved and where to get the germplasm. So I just started again with Longreach, and then so out of that came a winter wheat. Not too many spring wheats, but a winter wheat, because I saw, what's this called? Longsword. And I saw longsword being grown. And it was, supposedly the winter mux. And it was mildew susceptible, relief rust susceptible, a bit too tall and not that high yielding. And people were growing it. And I thought, I routinely throw away better stuff than this. So I better start keeping it, because you can cross spring wheats off different backgrounds and end up with winter wheat progeny. And so one of the parents that I was using for prior sprouting tolerance was consistently throwing winter progeny.
Well,
so it crossed with mace and then crossed with Scepter, begat
Tomahawk.
Mohawk.
Oh, Mohawk, yeah.
Yeah, and so Mohawk which is gaining some traction now. It's basically very mace, very Scepter, but winter.
Characteristics. So what's the earliest you could plant it down the south coast?
The earliest we've gone is March 17.
Best window would be 1st of April?
Oh, last week of March, first week of April.
Okay. And it still yields if you plant it in late April?
We've planted it, yes. I think by the time you get to the end of May, its yield penalty in relation to Sept about a tonne per hectare. So if you're sowing in June and Scepter was going 4 tonne, Mohawk's going 3. So,
but planted in April.
Planted in the first week of April, Scepter goes 2 tonne, and Mohawk can go
7.
Yeah, well, I did have one grower down the southwest complain about Mohawk in that he could never really get more than 8.2 tonne. And he was disappointed because he reckoned...
He wanted to break the world record, did he? 17 tonne or something?
No, he reckons he should have been getting 9. But I have others in the pipeline, but I'm pretty hopeful I'm going to get him over 9.
Okay. Next 3 or 4 years?
Yes.
So what's the adaptability of Mohawk then
Mohawk,
for the rest of the state?
if you want to grow it at Southern Cross, you would want to have it in last week of March.
March?
Yeah.
Which is a real risk because it could not rain for 2 months.
Oh, no, you'd only sold it.
Yeah, but even with
This year, we've had rain.
60 to 80 mil. Yeah.
Yeah, so all you got to do is get it to germinate. And
I got a good trick for that. Yeah, Four Farmers sells a product called Aquifer, which, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately because it's really a very genuine product. It's a humectant with a bit of wetting agent in it, and mostly, I did the work in 1987 with breast wheels and wetting agents, and they were just wetting agents. But this stuff with humectants is quite interesting, and I think it ties in actually really well with what you're talking about and what we're talking about right now with that Mitchell. My mum was a Mitchell cyclone. I won't forget this one. Tropical cyclone Mitchell dumping all that 50 to 80 mils out there because it's got the ability to draw moisture to it. It's sort of like liquid clay as a humectant. And even 1 litre per hectare has been quite spectacular in terms of...
in the furrow.
Yeah, with the seed.
Yeah.
With the seed. I tried it on top of the furrow and it wasn't as good because it didn't draw the water from underneath. But where we put it down deep where the seed was, down at Mindarabin last year, Tom did the work for us, it actually really, it drew the moisture, I think, from underneath, even though it only had about 35 mils of rain. It was a sort of a more sandy soil. It was probably a duplex soil about 40 centimetres, I'd guess, from the vegetation around it. But I reckon with this variety that you're talking about, Mohawk, if people do want to try it, to guarantee a strike, it's only $5.20 or $50 a litre. And 1 litre per hectare is a liquid system down with the wheat. I think can probably... I haven't done the trials yet myself, but at such a low cost, I think it's worth putting it out there and saying to people, consider giving it a crack to draw the water from below. Because when I was farming at Morawa, of course, I'd get 200 mils of rain in 2017 in January, February, March, and come, I had magenta, so I was happy to go on the 13th of April. I was okay with that, but I couldn't go earlier because it would flower in my 1 week of frost in the end of July. But that's about all I had in terms of frost, or second week of July. But what I was doing there was I was removing the topsoil. There's a top layer. I'd remove that much, and then I'd plant the long coleoptile magenta down here. But often my moisture was there, so across the paddock I'd get variable strike, and at a low seeding rate, so it would tiller. And always, whenever I could do that and get a strike on that summer rain, it would always yield better than anything else I planted in May, which, and germinated on a winter rain. And, it was always 1.5, 2 tonnes. And, that's a poor yield now, given the last 4 or 5 years of Morawa. Since I've left farming, it's just been tremendous August rainfalls and whatever. But it was consistently better than mace or scepter that I planted, 4 weeks later, that went maybe 1 tonne on my limited rainfall that I had up there. So interesting potential combination there with your variety. How much seed do you think of Mohawk is out there now?
Oh, it's heaps. Yeah, it's my old mate Smith, he's been doing a good job of flogging it off.
Yeah, I remember Wayne saying this is a fantastic variety. I remember one of his last newsletters that he wrote, he said, this is a variety to watch.
Just making up for Bag and Bremer.
Yeah. But you yourself bagged it. But that's all right. Okay, so that...
it's Jeff Fosbury and Garen Nell have been
on the ball
behind the winter wheat push.
Yeah,
and they've been tremendous support to the program. And you got to, at the end of the day, when water is the limiting factor, if a winter wheat sown in March and a spring wheat sown in May both have access to 150 millimetres of water, that water's the limiting factor, not when they went in. Yeah. And so there'll be plenty of years in which the early sown does not yield the late sown.
Yeah, sure.
But then there'll be other years in which it absolutely pantses it. And that's where some people see it as a small part of their program.
Yeah.
But the big role is with the sheep people, because
they can graze
when you go back to my old days as a pasture advisor, the deferred grazing.
Yeah.
You defer stock off your pasture paddocks and onto your wheat crop. Get a couple of weeks grazing at it, you just pretty much doubled your pasture production.
Yep, because the roots can go down in the pasture.
Yes, and so that's
where
you build that
really fits.
into a few hundred hectares of early sown winter wheat. It's just another tool in the system.
Yeah.
Helps out on the stock side.
Just to dumb it down. No, don't mean to say dumb it down, but there might be some young farmers who've never heard of a winter wheat because we're not a winter wheat environment, really. So maybe just give us a 1 minute overview of what's the difference between a winter and a spring.
So a winter wheat will not flower until it's experienced a winter, what it considers to be a winter. So its body clocks up hours of cold. If it does, as soon as it gets enough hours of cold clocked up, the growing point of the wheat starts to initiate the flower. So when we grow, say we've got a segregating population of winter and springs, and we grow them out over summer, the winter wheats don't flower. We get out there thinking we've got this magnificent new late spring wheat, you can look at it in March, ready to harvest it, and it's still flat on the ground.
Too much winterness in it.
Kikuyu. But you've played that in March, it will clock up the cold hours, enough cold hours, and then it'll flower at the end of August.
Does it know how to grow slow if the rain is limiting? The moisture's a bit dry, soil's a bit dry?
I don't know.
Do you do lower seeding rates?
We do, yeah.
Just to help with that issue.
To date, we haven't had a big increase from lower seeding rates. I know there's someone who'll probably watch this and go, you're wrong. You should be going really low. But that's just our trials haven't demonstrated that. But they will grow massive plants at low seeding rates. They'll grow absolutely.
But the really interesting thing about this, and you said it before, you said that it's not for the whole part of your program, and I think that's exactly how I treated Magenta. If I got 10%, I'd be happy. That's plenty. Getting it early. But as you know, Kevin, well, out in the wheat belt, it's more so. Our rainfalls can be fickle. We just might not get that 6 mil of rain on a medium soil to get it germinate in May. It just might not come. It might not come till middle of June. Yeah. So if that happens, you comment before about how much water you got in the soil. It doesn't really matter, but you know it does if you've got it going away on a deep summer rain moisture and you just cannot get it to connect in June. This is a real treasure of an opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the data will tell us, but. Yeah. And they're sadly these days there's not that many people in the ag department doing this sort of work, and GRDC only funds sexy work, and it's not that sexy, So there's not a lot of data around, and so until there is, it's this theory. And
that reminds going to drive it, yeah. So regard to coleoptile length, what is Mohawk's coleoptile roughly? Is it short, medium, long?
Depends on the temperature.
Yep.
So it's essentially the same as scepter, but if you have a wheat sown in the cold of winter, it will have a much shorter coleoptile than it will sown into a warm soil in April.
Right. So you could probably push it to 9 centimetres.
Maybe.
In the warm condition.
I mean, I've pushed it to 7 centimetres, and that's in a furrow press wet.
Yeah.
So it's come up, I had the green and yellow footy socks for a while. But because it comes up that early, it's got plenty of time to recover.
Yeah.
And later on, you would not know that it'd been sown deep.
Yeah.
7 or 8 centimetres. As long as you're putting it on the moisture, it'll get up there.
Yeah. Well, that's very exciting. It's a crescendo for your career, I think, probably, hopefully.
Well, I think the big thing that happened last year was that there's a big gap between the spring wheats and the quick winter wheats.
Yeah.
In maturity. Denison to longsword. Longsword's the quickest of the winter wheats. There's a big gap in maturity there. And last year we managed to fill that. And we've got, with a combination of very late maturing spring and very early, very quick winter. And so the breeding program that I'm handing over to a young breeder will contain a big range, and there will be even more range of wheat maturities for people to work with in the future.
Right, so we could see a variety of wheat called Kevin.
Oh, they generally only name them after you when you're dead. So hopefully not too soon.
In the next 5 years, hopefully I won't hear of a Kevin variety.
It won't be young because I've already got one of them.
That's right, I was thinking that. That's why I called it Kevin.
We don't want Kevin in the foreseeable.
Well, actually, if you're happy to go there, you did have a bit of a tough personal... I remember you saying something...
Oh, yeah, life has its ups and downs.
Yeah. What was the name of that YouTube video that you pointed me to? It was a Red Cross or something?
Go there.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm glad that you're healthy, fit and strong and going to retire on a winning note.
I've got a new job.
Oh, have you? Oh, tell me.
Lab breeding job.
Yeah?
Honorary junior hop breeder for the University of Adelaide's brand new hop breeding program.
What's hop breeding?
Well, it's breeding hop varieties. Because I'm a hop producer, you see. I'm producing hops for the
Oh, hop. H-O-P-P, sorry. Yeah.
No, H-O-P.
Oh,
H-O-1-P.
Oh, okay. Hop. No E, yep. Yeah. So, yeah, okay. Well, that's different.
It's different. It's very exciting too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Ah, well, one of our mentor, Kevin, Alan Robson, I remember one thing he said is every 5 years a change in career is not a bad thing. Put a bit of, jolt in your, in the tank and get you fired up. And this sounds like this might more than...
Won't even have to leave my backyard.
Ah, you're going to do it in Esperance.
Have a look at the Lucky Brewery.
Oh, yeah, that's going gangbusters, isn't it? Yeah.
And, I'm they're one of their many hop growers. But,
good, yeah.
Nigel said, when I said, I'd like to have a go at producing
Nigel Metz?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd have a go at producing hops. He said, I want you to breed me a variety. You're a wheat breeder. Breed me a hop variety. I can't be too hard.
So here you go.
Give it a red hot go like I do everything.
Well, I don't know if you want to go anywhere with terms of any hobbies that you have or family or, where you're comfortable going with that. What hobbies do you have other than breeding and agriculture? You're passionate about, like me.
Horticulture is frustrating. I'm a frustrated horticulturalist, so I have a little block and I'm a bit of a granny, so I've got some pristine heathland, beautiful heathland at the front.
Okay.
Enormous diversity of flora. I've got my orchid counts up to 8.
Wow.
And
you need to invite David Barron down because he's got a similar bent to you.
And then I have a little vineyard.
Yeah.
And hop grove, make my own olive oil. I've got bees there. And
so you got a couple of hives?
Garden and orchard, and I'm pretty happy there.
Yeah. Do you do anything on the beach? Do you go fishing or swimming? Or
I like beach fishing. Got a little boat.
Yeah.
In the bay.
Are you allowed to do that now? The minister's upset. Yeah. You can do it from the beach, can't you? You just can't go out.
No.
Esperance is nowhere near the real world.
No, there's no... I don't catch commercials.
So do you catch salmon at Esperance?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never did it. I was too busy with my kids and no-till stuff when I was down there. But it used to Bremer Bay, Reef Beach. That's where I grew up. We used to go catching salmon, and that was fun.
I was collecting granddaughters.
So what are you up to now?
Number 5's arriving.
10 minutes. We better finish
soon. The business that I established has been taken over by number 3 son.
That's good.
He's taken it to a whole new level. He's not a plant breeder, but he's got
attention to detail.
And technology, new technology.
Yeah.
The plant breeders all love him. For good reason.
Yeah.
He did his 10-year apprenticeship with me and then took over the business. So, life's good.
Yeah. Oh, well, I wish him a couple more decades maybe down at Esperance and pottering around and catching up with JR occasionally. And he was my sort of, when I first joined the Ag Department in Esperance, I think it was the first stint. I had a year and a half there in 88, 89 when I finished my no-till project. And
is that all?
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot longer, Bill.
Oh, well, then I came back after the Masters project with Alan Robson and it was another 7.5 years. So I had about 10 years in Esperance, actually. Right. Yeah, but JR was my supervisor back then, and then Jeremy Lemon took over supervising me. And, so and you were in the office at the same time. And yeah, no, it was a very vibrant, and it still is. I think there's still some good people in the Esperance office, but obviously you're private now. Esperance has contributed greatly to West Australian agriculture, I'd say, being quite aggressive in pushing the frontiers. There's some really innovative farmers down there doing some really good stuff, and no doubt you've worked closely with some of those farmers.
Look, I think one of the really big reasons is the farmers are so receptive.
Yeah.
And that, again, was a timing thing that they had to be, because things hadn't been worked out and they were on the bones of their bum.
Yeah.
It was
necessity is the mother of invention.
They were instrumental in making the research adopted.
Yep.
Practical.
Yep.
And
you and I worked closely with them with the no-till and with the high yield agronomy stuff.
I've got a lot. It was a lot more fun in those days, because you got people living in tin sheds.
Yeah.
And rough old fibro places out in the sticks, and now all you do is make them rich bastards richer. I mean, it's not as much fun.
There's a fair bit of truth to that. That's very interesting.
I was going to be concentrating on anywhere. If I was going to be not pulling the pin at 71 and keeping on going, I'd want to work with the marginal areas.
Yeah.
Where you could probably have a...
You mean the hops growers?
Well, we are in marginal hop growing country. So
there you go. You've done it. Just a quick circle back. I'm curious what your body reaction is going to be like when I mentioned Planet Barley.
Planet?
It came and it sort of had a bit of a heyday. Yeah, that was after you finished.
Planet was a really interesting one.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that.
One of my clients was the Cobra, and the breeder, Dominic Faquan, was out it was on a trip to Esperance, and I had plots for him up at Grass Patch. And I was asking him about Planet, and I said, where the hell did this Planet come from? And he said his take on it, so this has not been proven, but his take on it was that there was some type of mutation that had occurred that led to the big yield increase that Planet had resulted in Planet. And he said the crosses you make to Planet are either plus or minus.
Yeah.
They've either got that yield increase or they haven't. He said it looks like it's one gene. And I don't know whether it's a mutation or you can occasionally get this thing, epistasis, where a gene that's been there has been blocked, and all of a sudden it's
cut loose.
It's cut loose. And it was typical European barley with that slow rate of grain fill and that temperature sensitivity. And my take on it straight away was, you just got to get that out of it, cross it to the
more adapted
short DVP, more adapted Australian material, and get that yield kick into that.
Did that happen?
Yeah.
What's the variety?
Oh,
it was coming.
There's quite a few.
Right.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my good mate David Moody, legend of among barley breeders, Neo.
Yeah, there's a Clearfield one.
Yeah, well, pretty much all of his are Clearfield. Yeah. But Neo has the Planet.
Yeah, I saw David the other day.
Yeah. Without the grain size problems.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. The breeders, HET's got it in theirs. I think Secopra have got it in theirs. So, it's neat when a freak comes along, isn't it? Yeah. Creates a bit of... That's what you... Yeah. And the interesting thing was, Dominic said, they repeated the cross. Yeah. The May Planet. They got nothing out of it that yielded like Planet. So... The freak. Mutation, freak, just, Yeah. You all dream of that. Yeah, we do. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good, Kevin. I reckon we've probably just about churned the fat a fair bit. In hops. So is the beer going to taste better? Oh, the beer's already meat medicine. Is it? Yeah. This is a plug now, isn't it? It is. Yeah, your blood. Yeah. I did, yeah. No. Yeah, go for it. My hops. Yeah. Nigel reckons the best use of my hops is fresh. So next Tuesday. Oh, this is an invitation. No, 24th, you can come down and help.
Okay.
And we'll be picking hops in the morning, and they'll go straight into the brew at Lucky Bay Brewery in the afternoon.
Right.
And like they did last year.
Will they still be there the day after? Because I might be there the day after.
No, you've got to wait for it to be brewed. But the beer, we did this for the first time last year, and the beer was called the Local.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have an annual beer that's going to have my hops in it every year called the Local. And it had Mohawk wheat in it.
Oh, wow. How good is that?
Yeah, good. Really good.
What's the other raw ingredient?
And the other thing is it's the best beer they've ever brewed. It's an absolute magnificent stuff.
What percent is it?
The gods.
Is it
Lots.
4.5?
Yeah, lots.
More than that?
No, about 4.
So while you're here, how about you put a tiny little plug in for Esperance for tourists, agricultural people in the wheat belt? Why would they want to go to Esperance for a break over summer?
I don't like having tourists in Esperance.
But these would be farmer tourists, Kevin. You catch up with them over. You're now destroying your.
The worst thing about COVID was that all these people stopped going to Bali and discovered in Esperance. Now you can't get a park in the.
So the secret's out how good Esperance is. You don't want to add to it.
That might encroach on my fishing spots.
Oh, good on you, Kevin. You always did have a bit of a dry sense of humour. I always appreciate that. I remember you helping me with stats one time, and I was very, very thankful because I was tearing my hair out. Is this significant or not? And you helped me on the computer and while I was in the Esperance office. And
the person who would have taught me would be Mark Seymour.
Right. Well, Mark was in here, recently singing your praises as well as being your supervisor to him when he first got there, and he said your careful, thoughtful supervision was incredibly appreciated by him. So you've had a Mark.
Funny how he's never said that to me.
No. Well, that's all right. Now the whole world knows.
Just take the piss out of him.
Yeah, I know. That's his job. He's a mate. Like you did with your Rasmussen mate in Minnesota. You took the piss out of him, and now you're best mates.
I never take the piss out.
Well, I'm just trying to use your words. All right, Kevin. Well, good on you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you again.
Okay.
Right, mate.